Okay, a lot to unpack there. First, I'm going to say, just regarding the movie The Matrix, you should look into how even the script for The Matrix was stolen, allegedly. But to bring this back to my earlier point about all of these things that are happening or have happened that are seemingly inexplicable, it just lives inside of me that Charlie Kirk knew he was going to die. How? How was he so certain that he was going to die young? How is that possible? How was he even able to describe it as this tragic event? How did he know? How was he certain, by the way, as he said in those messages, that from the moment he signed onto the dotted line to begin Turning Point USA, he knew he was going to die. He knew his death was going to be related to Turning Point USA. That's not a coincidence, okay? It is completely absurd to have people, oh, I don't know, maybe just a coincidence. No, that's not a coincidence at all. Why did he know that I was going to defend him? Also, why did Charlie think he was a time traveler? He said, as I showed you in earlier messages, that he was a time traveler and he had to find me. Is that just something people are saying to their homies in text messages? And again, not anything that I would have placed so much emphasis on back when he was saying it, but it came to fruition. The other parts, he did die young. Why did he think that him dying young was necessary in order to change things? He did die young. It is related to Turning Point USA. In some way or another, at the very least, we could all agree it's related to him speaking at a campus event for Turning Point USA. I'm totally occupied by this. I tell you, I read these messages and I'm going, what is this? What is reality, actually? And Charlie died. Yes, like I said, it was related to this organization. And I think we would all agree that his death and the manner that they did it changed the world in ways that I don't think we can fully realize, or certainly not in a way that I can articulate. You just cannot pretend that all of this is one big unhappy coincidence. It's entirely plausible, I think plausible, that they knew something about Charlie. And that's why they had him marked and had him monitored and had him likely followed since he was young. And maybe they thought, like the agents think, that if they swarmed him and they stayed with him and they pretended to be his friend, that ultimately they could control Charlie and perhaps change an outcome. They could literally change an outcome related to Charlie. So when for the first time in his life, because I do believe he was managed, I mean, I've already said I was handled. I didn't recognize that I had agents. And for the first time in his life, Charlie peeks his head up and starts to push back in a meaningful way. They couldn't stop him from becoming bigger. That seemed to be inevitable. But they panicked. They seem to have panicked, right? I mean, this is just starting to happen within a year when Charlie's going like, hey, man, I don't actually think this. I don't actually believe this. And then he goes, you know what? Take the money. Take the money out of the organization. And they panicked. They freaked out. And their solution was, no, just kill him. Just kill him. We can't have this. This is not something that we are prepared to happen, that outcome of Charlie unleashed, so to speak. And ironically, that seems to be the very thing, his assassination, that catalyzed what they feared most, losing control of Charlie. That's exactly what happened, and they catalyzed that. So it seems to me that right now we're in the midst of this. They keep doing these things that only catalyze what they're trying to stop, what they're trying to prevent. For example, even unrelatedly, but the Brigitte and Emmanuel Macron, they filed a lawsuit. We have so much power. What are we going to do to stop this thing? She's getting into the story, is getting to the heart of evil and how the world is run to figure out that Brigitte is born a man. What are we going to do? We're going to file a lawsuit. A lawsuit filing was a mistake, obviously. It was globally consequential, right? They wanted to stop it, and yet they spread it. Catastrophic to their aims. The more pressure they exert toward control, the more they spin out of it. Another example, lock them down at home. Make them wear a mask, right? Create COVID in a lab, make everybody sick, force them to get the jab. Evil is really fun that way until it accidentally awakens the entire world to how fraudulent Big Pharma is. Like, is this now everyone's going, is this just a factory of poison? Do these people hate? Are they so evil? Have we just been giving our bodies over to quote unquote science? Now, going back to The Looking Glass and them shutting down this project and not being able to edit whatever it was, we obviously cannot know for certain what it is that they saw when they peered through into this looking glass. But I do have a general sense that they're trying to edit its inevitability with ill-guided lawfare and warfare. And what I think is that our collective awareness is a threat. I think everybody peeking their heads up is making them increasingly more frantic. It's like they know we're barreling toward some foregone conclusion, and they have spent decades trying to stop that, trying to prevent that. And when I think about what it is, right, I just consider their general obsessions and their general triggers. They are positively obsessed with the Antichrist. I mean, like people like Peter Thiel, he's like going around giving interviews asking about the Antichrist. That's kind of the entire drift, by the way, of the AI world. When I say I look at these people, I don't like their eyes. Something disturbs me. They mock that, take me out of a clip. Oh my gosh, I don't care. I have spiritual discernment. Something about the entire AI movement feels wrong. And come on, what am I wrong? Am I wrong? Sam Altman, all of them. And they are, no, you can trust us. It's like they want us all to become automated so that we can be more easily controlled. What they're going to do, okay, we can't control the outcomes. Let's just control where we're at. Let's control every single person in the world and make everything AI so that if we want to, they won't discover history. We can just delete files entirely. Nobody will be reading books anymore. The kids will be stupid. We can just wipe history and entire civilizations with the push of a button. There'll be no more books. And maybe I could say this is 1A, but they also seem to be similarly obsessed with trying to make everyone turn against Christ. I mean, that push over the last couple of years, Christ is king, is hateful. You shouldn't even be saying that. Why? That's a weird triggering that no one expected. No one should say that. It's anti-Semitic, whatever. Producing reports about Christ is king. Is that not just a waste of money? Why did they do that? Can we just revisit that? Why did they do that? They produced a report and brought in doctors to assert why Christ is king is wrong. That's weird, guys. And that's a triggering, by the way, that has been going on for a long time. It's the very reason they set about removing the Bible from the classroom, creating Hollywood in general, which was supposed to mirror Babylonian culture, training us to worship stars. They wanted to establish this neo-paganism. They also wanted to make it so that future generations would think atheism was cool. That was by and large successful. It was a period of time where I thought that atheism was cool. But why? Why this push? Well, I think the obvious answer is because they are certain, actually, that God is real. That's what they're fighting. They're fighting God at all times. They know he's real. And that should be refreshing to you. Like, God's obviously real, or would they be spending all this time trying to convince us that he wasn't? Right? Do you spend all of your time trying to convince people that this is something is fiction? No, they're terrified of that. Or they wouldn't. They're open Satanists, as we showed you guys yesterday. They're trying to foster a culture of demonic idolatry. Think about this. I lost a job in part for saying that pornography is a spiritual weapon against men, and that we needed to look into the history of pornography. Huh? What that should signal to you is that their power relies on us being distracted, on us being focused on carnal desires, right? Entirely living of the flesh. Like Tim Dillon said, the amenities, the pool, the new restaurant. Oh, look, there's a new celebrity over here. Yeah, so the threat is us being aware that spiritual evil exists. That's what they're afraid of. It's why they insist on this constant stream of pornography, filthy music, all of it. Because if it is true, as it's been reported by various whistleblowers, that our thoughts could impact future events, then what would happen if we all started focusing on goodness, eternal goodness, God? Yeah, I think that's the very reason that all of these demons seem to be thrashing right now. And I just wanted to dive into that project because I think we're all sensing a panic. And it's real, but I also want you to know that it's good. Now, it seems crazy. You're like, no, everybody's out of control. It feels like things are getting dangerous. Yeah, but it feels to me like it's the last squeals of a dying demon. we're going to speak more about that, as well as CERN and what they discovered. We have to totally revisit that was happening at CERN. Okay, so modern science kind of being run by Satanists. So obvious. Again, just go back and watch our episode on the moon landing and the rituals that they were doing. It's always been this way, and they're creating it because they want you to worship science. And that their ultimate test to see if they had succeeded in that, I feel like it was COVID, right? They stay inside, like they tried to make this a ritual, save lives. I mean, there was actually a really good article in the Spectator UK regarding how they tried to establish COVID to mirror a religion, the ritual of it, even having something you can wear, a mask to identify with one another. Anyway, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. Point being is that once you see that, you can't unsee it, that modern science is intentionally being created to conflict with God. And there are some really bizarre things that have happened, particularly, I would say, regarding CERN. What do you actually know about CERN? I'm going to bring Mark on to mansplain this. What CERN is and what they were involved in. And you guys kind of remember, we're trying to find the God particle. That was another push. Mark, jump on here and mansplain everything.
I'm happy to. And I just want to preface by saying I am not a particle physicist. So I just use particle physics recreationally. I'm a high school dropout. This is all on my own. But CERN was basically established in 1954 to research particle physics. There's something called the standard model of particle physics to kind of explain how everything exists and what it's made out of, to back up the Big Bang theory of creation. And one of the missing pieces was, how do particles that don't have mass attain mass out of nothing? And so in 1964, a group of scientists theorized that there's something called a Higgs boson. One of the scientists was named Peter Higgs, I believe. And so the search was on to find this particle. And so that's why CERN created the Large Hadron Collider, which is based in Geneva, Switzerland, and is a 17-mile tunnel underground, up to 600 feet underground in some places, where they shoot subatomic particles at each other at a very high speed to try and break them apart to see what they're composed of. And so in 2012, they observed a reaction that's consistent with this particle that was theorized back in 1964, that some people were calling it the God particle, to explain how something can come from nothing and essentially try and erase God from the story of creation, to create a scientific explanation of it.
So in short, exactly, they're trying to be God. This is like the next step for them. We're controlling humanity. We're controlling their minds. Like, what can we do? What's the next step? We need to become creators of things on Earth. That's all the way, by the way, you guys, part of my conspiracy, why I'm like, have 12 kids. It's because they want to even control birth. They want to control dying. Like, they're debating, oh, you should have, they always sell it as like, it's more freedom for you. No, it's more power for them. We're going to decide if you're allowed to be born. Everyone's going to eventually in the future need IVF, which puts them in a place of power. And then also, we're going to also tell you when you die, which is why they have now these pods, which is being debated. And where's the home of the pods, the death pods? Switzerland. Anyways, of course, the tunnel is underground. And it's interesting when you consider that they started searching for this particle when they realized, that's when the 70s is when they began this looking glass project, when they started, not the CIA's looking glass project, but when they first got this Sumerian technology hooked up with a computer. It's an interesting parallel, right? And I also wanted to tell you guys a little bit more about what happened with CERN, which I've always wondered about. It was a big WTF moment with these elites, and you might recall this happening in 2016, but maybe you weren't awake yet. They quite literally got caught, and I think it was some worker that was walking around doing this nighttime ritual satanic ceremony gathered around the statue of Shiva. Interesting for those of you that are following our Becoming Brigitte series. In season 2, I went into Dionysus, the god of Amiens, which was from that town where weird things happen, and that's where both Brigitte and Emmanuel are from. Well, Shiva in the Hindu faith, if you look it up, this would be the nearest equivalent. Dionysus being like god of wine and revelry. Shiva would be the equivalent here. Anyway, they got caught literally in the middle of a satanic human sacrifice ritual, And I'm just going to read you this article verbatim because otherwise you won't believe me. Okay. This took place. CERN discovers satanic human sacrifice taking place at the Large Hadron Collider's grounds. Okay. A satanic human sacrifice, it reads, has been staged on the grounds of the European Organization for Nuclear Research, the home of the Large Hadron Collider. The footage shows which I'm going to show you guys, a cloaked group wearing long flowing black robes. One of them has on hiking boots underneath. They're seen walking around before a woman moves onto the floor and then is stabbed. But the footage, then the person who's recording it, you're going to see the drop and they're like, what the heck happened? And they are obviously scared. So when they got caught with this, I want you to know they come out and they say, oh, that was a prank. I'm sorry. It's a massive statue, as you're about to see. You're telling us that the leading scientists in the world decided to meet by the cloak of night to do a prank, and someone at the facility gave a statement and said the PR guy said they were taking their sense of humor too far by staging a satanic ritual. I'm sorry, is this an acceptable excuse? This is like when a pastor finds $300K behind a toilet. We're going to need a little bit more here. Is the woman still alive? We can't even tell if this was a fake stabbing in this video. The leading scientists of the world, and they admit, by the way, we're really concerned about security. We don't know how this video got out. It wasn't like this prank was intended for the world. Somebody who worked there recorded it, got it to a YouTuber who then published it. And their response was to say, that was a prank. Don't ask any more questions. Let's move on. And the media just backed him up. It was a prank. Yeah, so we're going to take a look at this ceremony, which again is taking place under a Hindu deity. And the spokesperson confirmed it's real, and this person had no permission to record it, and there was obviously, therefore, had no permission to have it published. Take a look at this, and I'm going to have to talk through it in case some people are listening on audio, but you really should try to tap in and watch this on video as well. Okay, so it's a massive statue. That's just to start. Are we bringing this in as a part of the prank? I don't know. There is a woman. There's a bunch of people that are in black robes, and some of them have hoods up. And then there's a woman that's wearing all white in the center of it. And they are now encircling this woman, and she's like laying flat on the floor as somebody is circling around her. I think he might be holding some fire. And then it looks like she gets stabbed. I'd like to know where that woman is today. If this was a prank, you then hear heavy breathing and you hear a guy saying F, 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 F. Doesn't seem like it was a prank to him. He didn't think it was a prank, and we just moved on. We just absolutely moved on from that, which is incredible. It's incredible to consider that as a society, we have been so distracted that we were like, oh yeah, I guess that's fine. It was just a prank or whatever. Anyways, like I said, it feels like evil is becoming more radical, more obvious, and more noticeable to most of us who had never considered that any of this was possible. And a part of that is just recognizing how fake the media is, And this brings me to Daily Wire, Unhinged. I don't even know what to say. They have dropped another video that kind of, if I'm being honest, feels like a laced threat. They are mocking Egyptian planes, but they have put in a voiceover, again, dropped on my old socials. So using my face to attack me in a really strange way by suggesting that they are following my every move and my every personal decision that I make, that they will be watching me. So I'm going to let you watch the video that they dropped on my socials.
You should be obsessed with traveling, not just the destination, but the experience of getting there. When you travel with us, you'll feel warm, you'll feel welcome, and you'll feel watched, because every seat comes with the peace of mind of knowing someone is following you with 2 planes. This is what you can expect when you fly with At Egyptian Air, we definitely never mix up our time zones, flight numbers, or flight times. We know every journey is your personal business. After all, your personal business is our business, is our motto. Egyptian Air, wherever you travel, we will follow.
And so they've colored the letters there on the text for watched, followed, we will follow. I don't even know what to say to that. Like I told you, they're unhinged. It's been going on, by the way. It's like gang stalking. It's just been going on for 2 years consistently behind the scenes. Now they're just kind of gone mass down and people are seeing it in front of the scenes. Like I just am not allowed to be fired from that company. And I don't know what to really say or do about that other than just to keep publicizing that I find their behavior to be alarming. It's discomforting. And there's something about this that feels very dangerous to me. And that feels like a warning, as many people said, a threat, a laced threat, the weird devilish voice at the end, we will follow you, and then having a plane then burst into flames. It's not a joke. They don't mean it to be a joke at all. So yeah, there you go. We'll just put that out there.